Today we have the very exciting opportunity to go through the new Griffin's Saddlebag subclasses and have a quick look at some of the items as well. This is book one of, I think there are 6 now, but there's only 2 on D&D Beyond, and for some reason the second one came to the website before the first one. I actually think it might be linked to the Bard subclass, which we will get to when we get to it. But as ever, the aim of this video is to have a look at the subclasses and see if they're fun. I'm interested in power from a theory crafting standpoint, but when I'm choosing classes myself, I tend to go for the ones that spark joy. We're going to hop into that in just a second. I just want to go through, I opened up memberships finally. You don't get a huge amount, really selling it, but I do want to give a huge thank to the Zombie Knees 6263 for being my first channel member. It means a lot. It's just the wand here at the moment. You just get a fancy badge, and I'll try to mention you by name as much as I can and when I remember to. I have filmed a bunch of videos in advance though, so don't feel too bad if you get missed out. It's just because I'm currently about 4 weeks ahead. Aside from these ones which pop up, I also opened up a Discord. Link is in the description. That's it. Cool. Right, with that out of the way, let's get to the video. We are already in the video, actually. So this is the Griffin's Saddlebag Book 1. The main attraction here is definitely the magic items. There are a plentiful number of them in this book. They are some of the coolest in D&D, in my opinion. The first book adds in just a ton more, so we will take a look at some of those, but I do want to look at the subclasses first. We've also got a little bit of information on this setting, which is super cool. Always nice to have more stuff like that. A few really cool creatures to check out, including some undead nonsense, and the origin of the Griffin's Saddlebag as well. I'm not going to go through everything, but I do want to take a look at the character options. Specifically, you get one subclass for each of the core classes, but you also get the Feathren here, which is a combo feline and avian species. You are medium. If you are Feathren, you have speed of 30 feet, you get dark vision, and then you get to mix and match different traits as you want. So if you've got jay, owls, ravens in your background, you get thaumaturgy. Then there's a group for message and prestidigitation, and then there's also for the cat one, you get detect evil and good, detect poison and disease, and detect magic, depending on what you want to go with. You can also talk to creatures, and they have a basic understanding of what you're saying, and you get advantage on your animal handling checks and charisma checks on them, which is lovely. You're also imbued with a mote of the Astral Griffin's creative essence. You get proficiency with 2 artisan's tools and proficiency with a new tool that you can gain in half the amount of time. You also have talons, which you can do a d6 of damage with, which is handy. On to the Path of the Glacier is the barbarian subclass. Born from the frigid and daunting ever glacier, barbarians who walk the path of the glacier have learned to harbour the resolute stillness, patience, and unwavering determination and destruction of the icy landscape. These warriors transform their bodies into powerful moving bunkers that are as difficult to take down as they are to escape from. Barbarians who follow this path are often trained hunters who enjoy the patient stalking of prey. They thrive on the peril they impose on fleeing targets and take special pride in the slow and steady approach. There's a lot of Arctic themed subclasses in this book, which is fun if you want to be cold, I guess. Level 3, you get Permafrost. These are just buffs that you just get flat out. So you get resistance to cold damage, which can be nice. You get an additional 1 bonus to your AC, which is handy with barbarians because they're pretty easy to hit, generally speaking. And you can also just choose to extend your rage just flat out a number of times equal to your con mod, as long as you're not unconscious, basically. You get uses of that back when you finish your long rest. It's an interesting one. It's con mod times per long rest, and it just says that you just extend it. So that would, to me, suggest you double the general length of it, which would be good because it means you can theoretically use it more for RP stuff, but it's bordering on a ribbon feature, I think. You also get Frostbite. Once on each of your turns while your rage is active, you can choose to release a burst of sheer cold when you hit a target with a strength-based attack. When you do so, the target takes an extra 1d6 cold damage, which goes up by 1d6 at level 9 and level 16. Along with that, when a creature takes cold damage in that way, its speed is reduced by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Level 6, you get Cold Fortress. You learn to further channel the icy resilience within you. When you enter your rage and you aren't wearing any skin, it becomes shielded by a protective layer of frost. This gives you a number of temp health equal to 1d12 plus your con mod. You can take a bonus action in your following turns to expend a hit die and gain these temp health again. Being able to gain temporary health instead of just normal health is handy. It's a good way of doing it, and I think it really shows off what this barbarian subclass is about, which is really tanking. You could definitely combine this with the Frost Goliath for a fairly high degree of control as well, and just that cold flavor, which is nice. Level 10, you get deep sleep. Basically, this means you get really sleepy. You take a long rest in 6 hours, and if you do so, you get in the full benefits of the long rest, and you gain a number of special hit die which last until your next long rest and can be used as normal. The pool has a number of barbarian hit die equal to your con mod, so you basically get extra hit dice, which is good because that obviously helps fuel your cold fortress, but it can also theoretically do other things. If you somehow found a way to make your damage radiant, you could use the Spellfire Adept, is it? I think that would work off the top of my head, which is entertaining. Or if you've got Sangromancy spells from Grim Hollow somehow, then this is another bunch of these you could use. I don't know how you'd be managing that, but theoretically that would work. Level 14, the capstone feature of the subclass is Avalanche Stomp. As a magic action, you can stomp the ground to send out a tremor. Each creature of your choice in a 15-foot emanation originating from you must make a dex save, which is 8 plus your con plus your proficiency. On a failed save, the creature takes bludgeoning damage equal to 3d6 plus your strength mod, and it has the prone condition. Being a dex save and not a con save is pretty handy. Monsters have horrendous con saves, and sometimes things like this end up being con save for some reason. But this allows you to bypass that, basically. The fact that it's a 15-foot emanation from you means that as long as you're right in the action, you could theoretically hit a bunch of creatures with this. And 3d6, while not a huge amount of damage, isn't a bad amount of damage at all, especially if you've got a way to weaponize your bonus action. All in all, I think this is a solid subclass. I don't think it's not broken by any means. It's a solid level of power, and it feels like it would be entertaining to play. There's a lot of roleplay potential in there, along with, like I said, there's the chance to be a fairly controlling barbarian, depending on how you build it with feats and your species options as well. The Bard subclass is the only one which has had its name changed since the original release. I believe it used to be the College of Dance, which we have in the 2024 rules. This is now the College of Choreography. And while the Dance Bard has a monk vibe to it, this one is more about movement in and of itself. Bards of the College of Choreography tell stories and perform music without making a sound, choosing to instead move with fey-like grace and magic to evade harm and inspire others. These dances originate from the Festerwood, whose radiant spores and light made for miraculous performances and deadly hazards. These bards can be found anywhere from the local tavern to the highest levels of theatre, moving crowds to tears as quickly as rebellion. At every turn, they inspire others to be brave, move, and join in. Fast movement at level 3 means that you get an extra 10 feet of movement, which goes up by another 5 feet at level 6 and at level 14. More movement is good, especially if you're not doing Theatre of the Mind. I don't know how effective it is in Theatre of the Mind. I cannot stomach playing like that. Also at level 3, you get Inspirational Dance. As a bonus action, you can expend one use of your bardic inspiration to dance and reinvigorate another creature of your choice who can see you. This isn't that you can see, this is that can see you, which is an interesting change. When you do this, you roll your bardic inspiration die. The creature gains a number of temp health equal to the number rolled plus your charisma modifier, and when a creature gains the temp health in this way, it can immediately take a reaction to move up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks, or it can take the dodge action. I like this a lot. It's really good use of your bardic inspiration. The dodge action is wildly underrated, I think, by players. It's not an especially exciting thing, so being able to do it as a reaction is very solid. And the temp health would really stack up quite quickly with this, which is great. Level 6, you get Entrancing Movement. When a creature hits you with an opportunity attack or hits you with an attack roll while you're benefiting from the dodge action, that creature takes psychic damage equal to your charisma modifier plus half your bard level rounded down. In addition, you always have the Charmed Person spell prepared, and you can cast it without a verbal component. With this feature, you can cast it without expending a spell slot as well, and if you do so, it's cast as a level 3 spell, and the targets don't make their saving throws with advantage as a result of you or your allies fighting them. Once you cast the spell with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. This is a duo feature, really. This is two things at once. The psychic damage is alright. Your charisma mod plus half your bard level at this point is likely to be 3 plus 6, right? 4 plus 6, so 10, basically. No, it's 7. 7, because it's rounded down, halved, plonker. So 7 damage isn't bad. The issue is you have to get hit, which isn't something you want to do as a bard. This bard doesn't get extra health. It doesn't get anything that makes it better at tanking, so this is a feature that is fine. It's not something you want to be benefiting from, though, and you certainly don't want to be building around it. Also, the subclass feature at the end of all of this is level 14, Endless Dance. Your dance has become so invigorating that it can inspire an ally to attack. When a creature would gain temp health from your Inspirational Dance feature, it can instead take a reaction to make one attack using a weapon or unarmed strike. In addition, you can dodge using a bonus action. And whenever you take a bonus action to expend a bardic inspiration die, you can also dodge as part of the same bonus action. Solid. It knows what it's about. This doesn't feel especially strong. I think I prefer the vibe of the other dance bard, just because I like monks. But I think that this is a really interesting take on the concept and the idea of a dancing bard. And I think there's a lot of fun to be had here if you're combining this with something like Field Commander, which means you could use your action to tell someone to dodge. You can use your bonus action to do the temp health dodge thing as well. You could theoretically have all of your allies using their reactions just to avoid stuff, which wouldn't be a bad way to do things. Next is the Astral Domain Cleric. Gods of the astral plane are as lost to time and space as the realm they reign over. The astral plane fills the gap between the planes of existence and is an important balancing force in the cosmic ecosystem of the multiverse. Practitioners of this domain see the absence of anything as something and consider the astral plane as the ultimate destination of all things. These acolytes follow the ultimate path to their destination and help shepherd others along the way in a grand mission of entropy. Clerics of the astral domain are chaotic by nature, but typically choose to destroy evil where they find it and hasten its inevitable journey to the astral plane. Despite what that says, this whole thing reads to me as being chaotic. You could definitely play this as evil, right? You're on the side of entropy, which is arguably, while an uncaring force, not a great one. So, but hey, that's just me. Level 3, you get your Astral Domain spells. You get Blur, Guiding Bolt, Invisibility, Longstrider, and Starry Wisp. At level 5, you get Blink and Slow. At level 7, you get Banishment and Dimension Door. And at level 9, you get Teleportation Circle and Wall of Force. This is a great list of spells. You want most of what's on here anyway. It gives a more supportive role rather than just a healing one. The addition of Guiding Bolt and Starry Wisp are free, are really handy, and a damage cantrip is always good. Slow is a fantastic spell, and then so are all of them, really. It's a very solid spell list. Also at level 3, you get to create Void. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of your Channel Divinity to open a planar tear at a point you can see within 60 feet of you. Basically, this makes a 15-foot sphere, 15-foot radius sphere. Each creature in the area must make a dex save. If they fail, they take 1d8 force damage plus your cleric level, and they are pulled up to 15 feet towards the center of the sphere. On a successful save, the creature only takes half as much, so you open up a mini black hole. Basically, it's incredibly cool conceptually, and I think it's fairly potent. Actually, at level 3, there aren't that many AoE spells, and this always being plus your cleric level makes it quite a reliable bit of damage. It's not much here. It maxes out 11 damage at level 3, but it could be amazing, especially if you're combining that with something like Spike Growth, right? This is a fantastic control ability, and I do like it. Along with that, Planar Reach allows you to, when you cast a spell that has a range of touch, you can make the spell's range 30 feet instead. You can do this a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier, and you regain all uses on a long rest. Cure Wounds at long range is incredibly powerful, but so are some of the more damaging spells. Inflict Wounds or something could be a lot better if you could do it at range, so that's a lot of fun. The class then changes dramatically from level 6 onwards. At level 6 you get Spatial Exchange. You always have the Misty Step spell prepared. Banger spell, not complaining, but you can cast it by expending a use of your Channel Divinity rather than a spell slot, and if you do so, you can swap places with a willing creature of your choice, basically, within 30 feet of yourself. At level 17, you get Supreme Switching. You get to just swap with creatures when you Misty Step, even if you're using a spell slot instead of your Channel Divinity. You can also choose a creature that's unwilling and have them make a spell save, and if they fail, you swap. And if you successfully swap places with another creature using your Channel Divinity, you can cast up to a level 5 spell with a range of touch as part of the same bonus action. The spell must have a tasking time of an action or a bonus action, and it must target the creature you're swapping places with. Being able to heal an ally by swapping them out is obviously fantastic, but so is being able to do a bunch of the other cool touch range spells that you can do here. I love the way this is designed. I think it's as powerful as the fights that you're putting it in allow for it, which I guess is the same is true of every subclass, but this one is so specifically about rearranging and tactical movement that you really need to have the crunchiest kind of fights to make this feel appealing. You want battle maps, you want 3D spaces, you want all of that kind of stuff to make this really work. But whether that's true or not, the flavour here is undeniable, and it's got some really interesting concepts in it. I don't love that it suddenly becomes the Misty Step subclass at level 6, to be perfectly honest. Especially because it is, even if you cast it using a spell slot, which means if you took something like Fey Touched and you got Misty Step for free, it's not going to work on your free casting. But I get why it's there. But yeah, the Druid Circle, the Unbroken Circle, is an order of druids who have had who have abandoned the patient teachings of their predecessors, deciding instead to take up arms in defense of the wilderness. These combative druids form militias and harness the fury of nature itself to forcibly remove any encroaching evil that threatens their sacred lands. While the chaotic bend of nature is found within these druids, their bodies and impulses are tamed through training and discipline. Originally from the unforgiving Festerwood, this circle's teachings are as rigorous as the forest, blending a mixture of offense and defense to stand up to all of the world's challenges. Level 3, you get improved Shillelagh. When you cast Shillelagh, you can cause any melee weapon you're holding to be imbued with nature's power. You can choose for the weapon to retain its normal damage die instead of becoming a d8, and in addition you can use any weapon with which you have proficiency as your spell casting focus. We do have another Shillelagh focused druid subclass, the Druid of the Old Ways from the Crooked Moon. This is a different spin on that concept, and I think this one came first, to be fair to it. But I like the idea you can use any melee weapon, because theoretically you can combine that with weapon masteries if you've taken a fighter dip. That's never a bad thing, and it also means that you could do something like Shillelagh on a whip, which is sick, or you can combine this Shillelagh with, well, later on you can combine that Shillelagh with throwing weapons, for example. But we'll get to that. You also get the Unbroken Circle spells. You get Ensnaring Strike, Shillelagh, just in case you didn't have it, Shining Smite, and True Strike. You also get Haste, Fire Shield, and Flame Strike. It's an interesting list of spells. It's not the strongest. Haste is obviously a banger. Having a Smite handy is handy, and I don't really like Flame Strike. I want to, I just don't love it. It's solid, though. Right. Level 3, you also get Wild Recovery. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of your wild shape to regain a number of hit points equal to 2d6 plus your druid level. This healing increases by 1d6 when you reach druid levels 10 and 14. This is a decent amount of healing. At this level, it's an average of 10, and that scales up pretty well, so good stuff. At level 6, you get Shillelagh Mastery. When you're wielding a weapon under the effect of Shillelagh, you can attack twice instead of once with it. Extra attack is nice. In addition, you gain a +1 bonus to your attack rolls and damage rolls made with the weapon, which increases to a +2 bonus at level 10 and a +3 bonus at level 14. If the weapon already has a bonus, you can choose to use either or, which is nice. War Druid at level 10 allows you to replace one of your attacks with a druid cantrip, which is fine, but very late at level 10. And level 14 gives you a permanent bark skin effect. In addition, on each of your turns, you gain a number of temp health equal to half your druid level rounded down. And when you assume a wild shape form, you gain a number of temp health equal to your druid level plus half your druid level. Rounded down, that's awful wording. But I guess you can't really put 150% of your druid level either. So the bark skin is cool. I like this subclass well enough. I thought the Shillelagh didn't end when you dropped the weapon, but apparently I'm wrong. So ignore the throwing thing from earlier. I don't know where I'm getting that from. Maybe I read it somewhere else. I read a lot of stuff. I think this is a solid druid subclass. I think the issue with this one is just that we've had other melee and martial focused druids since this one was printed, with both Grimhollow and the Crooked Moon taking stabs at it and doing really interesting things with the concepts. I do like the concept here. The extra attack and being able to actually replace an attack with a cantrip is quite solid. It's a shame it comes at level 10, but you also do get a natural buff to your attacks. You don't need magic items for that. And you can use any weapon at all, which means that you can use a dagger, or you can use, like I said, a whip or a lance or any of the other weapons. So when you combine this with the multitude of amazing weapons that there are in D&D now, especially from third-party sources, you do get something that could potentially be quite potent. So not bad. The Couatl Herald is the fighter subclass. Couatl Heralds were or are martial warriors whose intention was to neutralize threats without always resorting to deadly force. Some of those words were pronounced correctly. Goodness. These combatants were a beloved symbol of peace in the once great city of Hearth, whose terrible destruction has been all but entirely lost to history. Perhaps you come from a long line of sequestered heralds who had escaped the city before its collapse, or maybe you found the age-old journals of one of the city's training officers. Regardless of how you come across this knowledge, training, and virtue, a true Couatl Herald defends the lives of all, regardless of the transgressions. This is one of the most interesting fighter subclasses I have seen conceptually. It's not about beating people and finishing them off, it's about sparing people, and I just think that's an incredible concept. At level 3, you get Agent of Mercy. You harbour a wellspring of positive magic within yourself, which is represented by your mercy dice, which scale up as you can see. Starts at a d6, ends at a d10, you start with 3, end with 5. You can use these mercy dice to boost your insight, performance, or persuasion checks. You can use it to deal extra radiant damage to a target when you hit them only once per turn, and as a bonus action you can gain 10 health with them as well. You get these back on a short or long rest, so it keeps the short rest vibe of fighters, which is great. Also at level 3 you get one of the people, which gives you proficiency in insight and persuasion. In addition, when you would reduce a creature to 0 hit points with a melee or ranged attack, you can choose instead to knock the creature out, reducing them to 1 hit point and giving them the unconscious condition while they start a short rest. The creature remains unconscious until it gains any hit points or until someone uses an action to administer first aid, which requires a successful medicine check. Level 10, whenever you deal damage with a weapon or unarmed strike, you can deal radiant damage instead. In addition, you also get both Calm Emotions and Sanctuary as spells, which your spellcasting ability for them is Charisma. You don't need to use somatic or material components for these, and you can do once each per short rest, basically. So you can do 1 Calm Emotions, 1 Sanctuary. Level 10, you get Calm Mind. Whenever you successfully persuade a creature to stand down or de-escalate an otherwise violent situation, you regain 1 expended mercy die. You gain 1 for each creature you manage to do, basically. You also get immunity to both Charmed and Frightened, which is handy. This is cool because it allows you to theoretically bump your damage, but it does mean that you need to be constantly trying to talk creatures out of fighting, and depending on the campaign you're in, that's just not always going to work. Level 15, you get Paragon. As a bonus action, you can command a creature you can see within 30 feet of you and expend a mercy die. If the creature can hear you, it gains temp health equal to the mercy die roll plus your charisma mod, and can immediately take a reaction to move up to half its speed without provoking opportunity attacks, and make 1 attack with a weapon or unarmed strike. If damage dealt by an attack this way would reduce a creature to 0 hit points, the creature is magically knocked out instead. Finally, at level 18, you get Heraldic Enforcer. Heraldic, maybe? One of those two. Your training has taught you to strike with magic and force of a mighty Couatl. You can use the Merciless Strike once on each of your turns without expending a mercy die. If you do so, you can use your Merciless Strike again this turn by expending a mercy die as normal. In addition, if you choose to knock out a creature instead of killing it, the target magically remains unconscious for 8 hours until you or an ally takes an action to shake it awake. Specifically, none of the other things apply then. I think this is a really well-designed subclass. I like what it's doing. I like the idea of a fighter that doesn't want to just hit everything with a greatsword, or at least not permanently. And I like the mercy die as a concept. I like it when you get more dice and stuff to play with in a subclass. Fighters get a few of those. I do think the Calm Emotions and Sanctuary thing is a bit underwhelming. I also don't love that there's a lot of charisma stuff in this, while I do appreciate the necessity for it and why it's there, because you're doing a lot of persuasion checks and things like that. There are a bunch of charisma-based fighter subclasses and third party, so it just feels a bit overdone. Wisdom would be a nice change of pace, but I understand why this one isn't that. For monks, we have the Warrior of the Celestial. Monks of the Way of the Celestial are peacekeepers and protectors of their chosen kin. These monks meditate to achieve a greater understanding of a divine being, granting them the ability to channel celestial energies into their own. These martial defenders are pensive, patient, and understanding, but they offer little mercy when evil intentions are made clear. The Way of the Celestial originated from the lost city of Hearth as a tribute to the city's guardian Couatl protectors, and while these teachings are far from common knowledge, there's no telling what small protected monasteries may still exist after the city's untimely destruction. Regardless of how you come upon this tradition, the wisdom of the Celestials guides its every principle. At level 3 you get Celestial Connection, which allows you to speak to any creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself telepathically. You don't need to share a language, but they can't speak back, which is nifty. Soul Searching Strike, also at level 3, allows you to expend a focus point when you hit a creature to peer into its soul. Until the end of the turn, or for 1 minute if you aren't in combat, you're aware of the target's emotions and its most obvious desire. At the GM's option, you can also discern current number of HP or a piece of the target's history. So that's very GM fiat reliant, but good to have. You also get advantage on your next attack roll before the end of your turn, and advantage on insight checks made to interact with the target until this effect ends. Also, when you hit a creature with your flurry of blows, you can do this without expending a focus point, which is nice. It sells what the class is all about, which is good. Stabilizing Focus at level 6 allows you to use a magic action to touch a bloodied creature and expend 1 or more focus points. The creature gets 5 hit points per focus point spent, but can restore no more than... This feature can restore a creature to no more than half its hit point maximum. In addition, you can spend 2 focus points to cast Enhance Ability, Lesser Restoration, or Protection from Evil and Good, and your spellcasting mod for those is Wisdom. Those spells aren't limited per rest or anything. It's just limited by your focus points. Enhance ability can be useful. It's nice to have advantage on checks with things. Lesser restoration is definitely handy, and protection from evil and good can be really powerful in some fights. So not a bad list. Level 11 gives you the dream and scrying spells prepared. You can cast these once per long rest. In addition, if you make an attack roll with advantage and hit, you can cause the target to take extra radiant damage equal to one roll of your martial arts die. You can deal this extra damage a number of times equal to your wisdom mod per long rest. It's not bad. Dream and scrying are arguably role-playing spells, and while the extra damage is nice, it's probably only going to be 3 times per long rest, which isn't a lot. So it's a little middling, that one. The final feature here is level 17, Heavenborn. You can use your stabilizing focus as a bonus action, and when you do, you can target a bloody creature up to 30 feet away from you. So better healing. You gain a fly speed, which doesn't allow you to hover, but does allow you to fly temporarily, and given how far monks can move, that's good. And you also just deal an extra 1d4 radiant damage per hit. Level 17 features pretty stacked. If you don't have a fly speed already, then that's very good. And being able to heal at range is also very good, especially as a bonus action, although monks are one of the few classes, I think, where the bonus action and action are the most interchangeable. So it's nice to be able to do it either or. So yeah, I like the subclass. It's solid. The flavor is great. I do like the flavor a lot. It doesn't spark the need to theory craft with it, which is good. I can't be doing every single subclass I see, to be fair. Next is the Paladin. The Oath of the Hearth originates from the city of the same name, whose tragic downfall has been all but lost to history over the centuries. We've heard that before. These Paladins swore an oath to protect this tropical sunlit city in the name of their celestial guardians. Until the end, they fulfill their oaths. You may swear this oath because you have an age-old connection to the city through your bloodline, or you may have established a connection to the city's principles through stories or interaction with a related celestial being. Regardless of your reasons for taking it, those who swear this oath adorn their armor with symbols of community, fire, and the sun to reflect their commitment to the city and the lives that were led there. You can definitely just reflavor this as being like to El Terrell or something if you wanted to, or any other number of cities if you don't want to include this, although throwing in a lost city is very easy to do in any D&D setting because it's gone. Oh, let's go the tenets. Light the way to progress and salvation, offer guidance and respite to those that need it, and turn those that would douse people's flames to ash. Fire, baby. Your spells are Burning Hands, Find Familiar. Find Familiar is so good, and getting that on a paladin is so good. Great level 3 spells. You get Aid and Continual Flame, Beacon of Hope, Daylight, Fire Shield, Guardian of Faith, Flame Strike, and Telepathic Bond. Solid enough list. Shame it doesn't have Fireball. I feel like it could have Fireball. Give Paladins Fireball. Level 3, you also get Burning Weapon, which allows you to expend a usage of your Channel Divinity to ignite a melee weapon you're holding with fiery energy. It lasts for 10 minutes, and when you hit, you deal fire damage equal to your Charisma modifier whenever you hit a target with that weapon, and each time you hit with it, you can cause it to deal normal damage or fire damage. The weapon also emits bright light for 20 feet and dim light for another 20 feet. To me, this subclass is a perfect candidate for the Shillelagh Paladin build, if that's what you want to go for, because that way you're dealing even more extra damage. It also fits really well if you wanted to splice this with the Purification Cleric from Grim Hollow, which gives vulnerability to fire damage as a channel divinity. You're going to be eating through your channel divinities, but if you can do fire damage, it's worth considering that subclass. Level 7, you get Aura of Warmth, which gives yourself and your allies resistance to both cold and fire damage in your aura, which is great. Level 15, you get Insulating Ward. Whenever you cast a level 1 or above paladin spell with a spell slot, or cast a level 1 or above spell without a spell slot using a paladin feature, Smite or Find Steed, you and your allies within your aura of protection gain a number of temp health equal to their spells level plus your charisma mod. More reasons to just go all in on charisma here. Finally, at level 20, you get Burning Spirit. This is your magic super form, which this one lasts for 10 minutes, so you can get it back using a level 5 spell slot. You shed bright light that fills your aura of protection and dim light for an additional 30 feet. Your speed increases by 30 feet. Your speed increases by 10 feet, and you can pass through other creatures. And you also get the ability to, at the end of each of your turns, deal damage to twice your charisma mod to any number of creatures of your choice within 10 feet of you, which could potentially be 10 damage to, let's say, like 2 or 3 creatures, 30 damage for free at the end of your turn, which can't be avoided and doesn't have to go through AC or saves or anything, is actually quite strong. So it's a solid subclass. This is also one of the few paladin subclasses which has a concept that I actually want to play. I don't find paladins especially interesting, but the artwork here is sick, which helps. Along with the burning weapon ability is a lot of fun. So it's cool. I like it. We have the Winter Trapper Ranger, combining both winters and trapping. I feel like we're looking at subclasses which involve these words quite a lot with rangers. The Trapper was the last one I did for the Ranger from the Helliana's Book 2, and obviously we had the Winter Walker Ranger from the last official product, so yeah. Winter Trappers are masters of control and keep both their adversaries and quarries helpless and at bay. Originating from the Everglacier, these trained hunters are experts at staying upright when others would surely fall, and they've learned how to use magic and acrobatics to keep both themselves and their allies out of harm's reach. It's weird to me that the blurb here for this one is so much shorter than the other ones. I don't know if Mr. Griffin doesn't like rangers. Level 3, you get pinned down. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with a weapon or unarmed strike, you can deal an extra 1d6 of the attack's normal damage and reduce the creature's speed by 10 feet. This is just a free hunter's mark on one of your hits, which is never bad. And at level 11, it goes up to a d8, and the target also can't make opportunity attacks until your next turn. It's great. Good work. You also get your Winter Trapper magic, Ice Knife, Mirror Image, Sleet Storm, Hallucinatory Terrain, and Hold Monster. Solid spells. Ice Knife is I like Ice Knife a lot, actually, as a spell. It's a little AoE very early on in the game, which is handy if you're facing a bunch of kobolds doing Tyranny of Dragons or something. So yeah, solid enough. Level 7, you get Arctic Predator. This allows you to get a bunch of stuff. When you make an attack against a prone creature, you don't have disadvantage if you're more than 5 feet away from them. You get the ability to ignore difficult terrain if it's composed of ice or snow, and you get advantage on stealth checks while in icy or snowy terrain, and you can't have the prone condition unless you're also incapacitated. That one's really solid, because there are a bunch of effects that would like to send you prone, and you just stand there and ignore it, which is good. Level 11, you get Magic Snare. As a bonus action, you imperceptibly create a magical trap in the ground at your feet. The first large or smaller creature other than you that enters the space in the next minute springs the trap must make a dex save. The trap can't be strung by you or creatures you designate when you create it. On a failed save, the creature takes 2d8 piercing damage. Its speed is reduced to 0 until the end of your next turn, and on a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage only. A creature that can see invisible objects can see these traps, and you can do this a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier plus on a long rest. The final feature of the Ranger is Tripped Defenses. You've learned to use a creature's mistakes against them. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of you misses you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to potentially knock them prone. Its speed is halved until the end of the turn unless it has immunity to the prone condition, and immediately after you do this, you can make one weapon attack with a weapon or one attack with a weapon or an unarmed strike, and move up to half your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. This is a really interesting subclass. The damage straight away at the beginning means that you aren't as reliant on Hunter's Mark, but if you do want to go down that way, you will be keeping up later on. The lack of Hunter's Mark anywhere in the subclass is delightful, because I think most players are sick of seeing it. And the abilities all being based around knocking stuff prone or not going prone yourself are fascinating. It means that you can, at range, try to trip people over, if you would like, if you've got things that can do that, and not worry about suffering if a barbarian is trying to make the most of it or anything else. So yeah, it's great stuff. Next is the Runetagger Rogue. This is sick. You concentrate your efforts on perfecting your art, developing special marks to claim and cripple your targets. Rebel leaders, artists, spies, and other members of the political underworld might belong to this archetype. Originally a tactic for subterfuge and assassination for the denizens of the Festerwood, those who employ these powerful works of art are famously difficult to pin down. The magical marks left behind become a calling card for any Runetagger, and as their strength and notoriety grow from the deeds that they commit, so too does their renown for their art. Level 3, you get a couple of features. You get Impressionist, which give you expertise with calligraphers and painters' supplies. As a magic action, you can create one or the other of these, and you get either ink or a vial of paint, depending on which one you do, which can be any colour of your choice. Additionally, when you finish making a mark or rune with ink or paint, you can imbue it with the effect of the message spell, which will mean that it glows with a dim light in a 5-foot radius, and a creature that touches it hears the message in their head, and then the mark becomes non-magical. This is a ribbon feature, but it's a fantastic ribbon feature, so we don't mind it. You also get runes at level 3, which is your main feature. You get 4 rune points, which fuel different abilities. When you hit a creature with a melee attack using a weapon or unarmed strike, you can expend a rune point to mark the creature with a magical rune in a flourish of paint and weaponry. These runes remain for a minute, and they vanish early if the magic fades, which is described in each individual one, or if it wipes it off. You gain all rune points and a short or long rest. Cryos means that the creature can't take reactions until the start of your next turn, at which point the runes fade. Hexus means that you can take a reaction to subtract a d6 from any successful ability check or attack roll that the creature does, although once this is done, the magic fades. Locus means that the next creature that hits the next attack roll that is against the marked creature has advantage, and also deals an extra 1d6 acid damage, which is pretty nifty. These don't scale, unfortunately, which is really rough. If you're giving stuff like this, at least with the damage, it does have to scale, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's great at level and then awful quite quickly after that. Level 9, you get advantage on ability checks and saving throws to avoid or end the grappled and restrained condition. You can also use a bonus action to attempt to escape those if it would normally require an action. Additionally, if you're within 5 feet of a solid surface, such as the ground or a wall, you can take a bonus action and expend 1 rune point to create a rune on the surface. When you do, you gain the invisible condition for 10 minutes. The condition ends early if you make an attack roll, deal damage, or cast a spell, or leave the space where you created the rune. So you can stay still next to the rune, but that's it. Invisible is good, especially on rogues, so not bad. Level 13, you get Resourceful. Mastery over the arts is lauded by friends and feared by foes. Whenever you roll initiative, you regain rune points until you have at least 2. In addition, whenever you deal sneak attack damage and add one of your cunning strike effects, you can expend 1 or more rune points to reduce the number of sneak attack damage die you must forgo by 1 for each rune point spent. This is the kind of feature that rogues need, and this bumps the power level of this subclass up pretty substantially just from this one feature, because it's really handy to be able to not have to pay for your cunning strikes, especially when you get to 2 per fight anyway, minimum, right? So that's great. Lead Paint is the capstone. Whenever you hit a creature marked with one of your runes, or spend a rune point to mark it with one of your runes as part of the attack, you don't need advantage on the attack roll or an ally within 5 feet to use your sneak attack. You still can't sneak attack if you have disadvantage, and when you use sneak attack this way, you deal an extra 2d6. So despite the ribbon features early on and then the somewhat underwhelming damage rune, although advantage is good, to be fair to the damage rune, this becomes kind of a powerhouse at level 17 when you can be swapping out cunning strikes for rune points. You gain rune points back anyway pretty comfortably, and then you can also deal extra damage. So it's all pretty good on that front. So I like it a lot, despite wishing that these things scaled up a little bit. The sorcerer, we have the Frost Sorcerer. Magic is created by pieces of the Ever Heart, the center and driving force behind the expanding Ever Glacier wastelands. The power within you might be passed down through ancestors who protected the glacier's magical core, or it might have been forced upon you through a chance encounter with the enchanted ice itself. Regardless of the source of your power, you're a creature of cold incarnate. I really like the artwork here. I like the artwork throughout, to be fair. This is also fantastic. Don't know how you're holding a paintbrush and a knife, but, you know, well done. You're a rogue. Anyway, level 3, you get to create ice. This allows you to take a bonus action to make icy terrain up to 5 5-foot squares, starting with the surface you're touching. These must all be connected. Each square covers a solid surface and must be contiguous with at least one other square. The ice-covered squares are difficult terrain and last until the end of your next turn. You can spend 1 or more sorcery points when you take this bonus action to freeze an additional 5 contiguous squares for each sorcery point spent. Being able to turn a bunch of stuff into difficult terrain is solid, so that's cool. Good work, I guess. Level 3, you also get your frost spells. This gives you blindness, deafness, icy knife, misty step, sleep, sleet storm, slow, fire shield, ice storm, cone of cold, and the cold version of conjure elemental. This is obviously the theme is on point, but I don't know how powerful the spells are really. It's a bit of a mixed bag. Now, also at level 3, sorcerers get so much, man. You get frozen body. Your hit point maximum increases by 3, and it goes up by an additional 1 whenever you gain another sorcerer level. In addition, difficult terrain composed of ice or snow doesn't cost you extra movement, and when you walk on ice, you can only spend 1 foot of movement for every 2 feet you move. So you actually double your speed if you're on ice or snow, which allows you to ice skate away into the distance if you use your bonus action to do this, which is sick, honestly. Level 6, you get Cold-Hearted. This gives you a few different benefits. You get resistance to cold damage. We'll cover the easy one first. Whenever you deal cold damage to a large or smaller creature with a spell, you can expend 1 or more sorcery points to attempt to freeze the creature in place. When you do, the creature speed is reduced by 15 feet for each sorcery point you spend, with that speed reduction lasting until the end of the creature's next turn. And if you reduce a creature speed to 0 that way, it takes 2d6 cold damage. You can then also use your create ice feature to turn water into icy terrain as well as solid surfaces. If you do so, it's a 5-foot cube, which can support large or smaller creatures. If a huge or larger creature moves onto the cube, it becomes water again. So good for laying traps. I like that as a trap laying concept. Cool, pun intended. Level 14, you get Flash Freeze. Your movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks while you're moving on icy terrain. In addition, when a creature you can see within 5 feet of yourself hits you with an attack roll, you can take a reaction to deal cold damage to the attacker, equal to your charisma modifier plus half your sorcery level. And when you do that, you can also use your create ice feature as part of the reaction. So you can turn everything around you into ice, which is cool. And at level 18, you get Frozen Soul. You get immunity to cold damage and resistance to fire damage. You also always have the Wall of Ice spell prepared and can cast it without a material component. You can also cast it once without a spell slot. If you choose for its form to be flat when cast in this way, the panels of ice don't need to be contiguous with one another. Once you use this feature to cast the spell without a spell slot, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. This is big Elsa vibes. So if you want to be Elsa, congrats. My daughter would love this. I like it a lot. I really like elementally themed subclasses, and I wish we had more of them, frankly. And the way that this one messes around with terrain and stuff would be an absolute blast to play and to DM for. I think this would be a delight to DM for, even if you're not in cold regions. So I like this one a lot. The Astral Griffin is the warlock patron. You've made a pact with a powerful demigod of the astral plane named Crier? Something like that. A griffin whose control over space creation and pocket dimensions extends throughout the multiverse. They aim to expand their eclectic collection of treasures, both magical and mundane. These treasures may be worth very little in the average shop, but to the Astral Griffin they hold a special place in the history or the fabric of existence. Your binding may lead you far and wide in search of foreign artifacts as quickly as it would near a nearby pub or for a tarnished locket. Regardless of the task, the Griffin's aims are rarely subject to distinctly good or evil motives. Your spell list is Identify, Locate Object, Magic Missile, and Rope Trick, Blink, Clairvoyance, Mordekainen's Private Sanctum, Leoman's Secret Chest, Legend Lore, and Passwall. All thematically fitting, but a little underwhelming. Magic Missile's a banger, though, don't get me wrong, especially because obviously yours scales up automatically, but it is better when you have more spell slots. If only we could use it more. Oh look, also at level 3 you get Astral Missile. You can cast Magic Missile without expending a spell slot a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier, and regain all uses when you finish a long rest. When you cast it this way, the darts can target a creature you can't see. If the target isn't within range, the dart flies haphazardly before vanishing through an instantaneous planar tear. I don't know if this is the level 1 version for free, or if it scales up with your warlock thing, right? So theoretically, you can only cast spells with your Warlock pact spells, so I guess this would scale up. I'd probably rule it as scaling up, but talk to your DM. Also at level 3, you get Extra Dimensional Acuity. This has a lot of words. Basically, you get a little extra dimensional space you can use, which can hold up to 50 pounds of inanimate material. This also goes up as you go. You can also sense other extra dimensional spaces that are within 60 feet of you, but it does not reveal their location or number. So you can tell that they are there, but not how many there are. Level 6, you get Planar Escape. You can hide yourself in a temporary extra-dimensional space to avoid harm. When you take damage, you can take a reaction to halve that damage, and you disappear into a harmless demiplane, which overlaps with your current plane. You can't perceive the plane you left and move normally while in this demiplane, but you are imperceptible to the creatures. You can perceive the plane you left, sorry. You are imperceptible to creatures on the overlapped plane. You remain in this demiplane until the end of your next turn, or until you choose to return to the plane you left. No action required. You can only do this once per short or long rest. This is a good way to avoid dying. We like that. At level 10, you get Extra Dimensional Mastery. You get Astral Clarity, so you can take a magic action to enhance the perception of your reality. For 10 minutes, you get advantage on perception checks that rely on sight, and you gain a true sight with a range of 30 feet. You can do this a number of times equal to your Charisma mod. When you're within 10 feet of a magical item that contains an extra dimensional space, you can sense what objects are stored within it, and you get resistance to force damage, which is fantastically powerful. Finally, level 14, your pocket dimension goes up to 250 pounds of inanimate material. You can also take a magic action to pocket something within 30 feet of yourself if it's not being worn. If it's being held, there's a wisdom save to avoid that happening. and it stays there until you retrieve it. If you don't get it back before the end of your next turn, it reappears in an unoccupied space within 5 feet of you, or in your hands if you have any free. You can only do that once per short or long rest if you target an object that's being carried by a creature. Otherwise, you can just keep doing it. So it's fantastic for stealing stuff. Really good for stealing stuff. So get to it. This is a really hard warlock to judge in terms of power, right? Magic Missile is a good spell. Being able to cast it for free up to 5 times a day is fantastic, especially if you do rule it as going up, which I probably would because of how Warlock pack slots work. I also think any of these free castings should scale up. Personally, that's how I've started ruling things in my game. So Divine Smites, Fine Steeds, all of that good stuff. If not, it's not as powerful, but you're still getting 3 free hits, right? It's not a bad thing. Free castings of Magic Missile is never bad. So, and then the rest of the features are P and thievery based, really, which isn't bad, but it makes it a little harder to judge. I like it. I kind of want to play it. There are a few warlocks I want to try out though, so I don't know if this is the top of the list, but it's near it. Finally, we have the Materializer Wizard. Some wizards abandon the limitations set by magic schools and instead focus on the binding force that holds everything together. These mages spend their efforts weaving and recreating matter from thin air to create art as well as utility. They value the craftsmanship taught by artisans around the world and consider their skills and creations to be a form of magic all its own. Some arcanists focus on altering the living, whereas materializers focus on creating and enhancing the inanimate. These mages see beauty in the possibility presented by raw materials and are found as readily studying ancient lore as they are in the centre of a bustling forge. Many followers of this tradition take great care and pride in the component pouches and find great kinship among bards, artists, and other craftsmen. Level 3, you get the Mending Cantrip, which is free. It doesn't count against other stuff. You get proficiency with 3 artisan's tools of your choice, and you can replace one of those every long rest. And while crafting using a set of artisan's tools, you can subtract your intelligence modifier from the number of hours you must work each day, allowing you to complete a full day in 7 hours or less, up to a minimum of 2 hours. So you can do a full day's work in 2 hours, which is very ADHD of you. Level 3, you get Minor Creation as well. When you cast a level 1 or above spell, you can make a cube of inanimate material that is no larger than 5 feet on a side. The cube appears in an unoccupied space you can see on the ground within 30 feet of you. Once you reach level 10, the range increases to 60 feet. A cube created this way weighs a number of pounds equal to 5 times its length on a side, regardless of its material. These cubes can support up to 10 times their weight, potentially serving as a bridge, and they can provide cover for creatures behind them. You can have a number of cubes in existence at a time equal to your wizard level, and can dismiss any number of cubes as a bonus action. Otherwise, a cube lasts for an hour, or if it takes any damage. The cubes are objects that have an AC of 10 plus your intelligence modifier and immunity to force damage. This allows you to make cover all over the place or change the terrain, which is nifty. As a bonus action, when you dismiss your cubes, you can actually make them explode. Each creature within 10 feet of a detonated cube must make a dex save or take force damage equal to 1d6 plus half your wizard level rounded down on a failed save. You can detonate a total number of cubes all at once with multiple separate bonus actions equal to your intelligence modifier, and you regain all uses of this on a long rest. You can also restore uses of it by expending a level 1 spell slot, regaining a number of uses equal to the spell slot's level. That's complicated. Oh, that's such a complicated feature. There's so many words and so much maths and good gravy. This is really cool. I think a lot of people are going to read this and just glaze over and never think about this subclass again, which I think is a shame because it's interesting, but I get it. Level 6, you get Material Enhancement. This allows you to, as a magic action, touch stuff to give them benefits until the end of your next short or long rest. You can give a bonus to attack rolls, which scales up as you level. You can give bonus to AC, which also scales up as you level. You can stop armor imposing disadvantage on stealth checks. You can make objects shine light. You can halve the weight of an object and remove the strength requirement if it's a suit of armor, if it would have one, or even get rid of the heavy property if it has that. If a creature throws the object, it can fly back to the creature's hand immediately after hitting or missing, and you can change the object's colors, smells, or textures. You can do this twice, spending 1 use for each benefit you give an object, and regain all uses on a short or long rest. Once you give an object a benefit this way, you can't give that benefit to an object again until you finish until you regain your expended uses. You can only use one benefit once per short rest. Again, the wording on this is level 10, you get Dematerialize. If you deal double damage to objects and structures, and if you hit a construct, it takes an extra d8 of force damage. That's so niche, it's barely worth considering. And level 14, when you see a large or small or non-magical object or structure be destroyed within 60 feet of you, you can take a reaction to cause its debris to magically vanish, and over the next 8 hours you can take a magic action to recreate the item, causing it to reappear intact in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of you. If the item is recreated in mid-air, it falls and any creature must make a dex save against your spell save DC. On a fail save, a creature takes bludgeoning damage for every 10 feet the item fell before reaching it. The damage is based on the item's size, which is 3d6 for large, 1d6 for small. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much bludgeoning damage, unless the object is at least one size smaller than the creature it falls on. The creature is pushed to the nearest unoccupied space. You can do this once per long rest. Again, so many words. This is like the Artificer's Wizard, and I really like it conceptually. I think a lot of this is going to be heavily DM dependent. It's so much more than a lot of wizard subclasses. You're going to need full battle maps to keep track of the cubes. You're going to need to be able to track the cubes in the first place. You're going to need to be thinking about materials and maybe talking to your DM about how different materials would interact with different things. Because it doesn't say it has to be the materials. You could theoretically make something explosive or flammable, right? How's that going to interact with things? This is a lot like the creation bard, so you're going to need to really talk to your DM about this one, basically. But I really do like it. I just don't know how good it is. With the subclasses out of the way, let's just take a look at a couple of magic items. There's a cat. Let's see, ear cuff of the vampire bat. You can enhance your hearing. Basically, the bat's eyes flash with a red glow as its ceramic fans bite down on your ear, causing you to take 1d4 plus 1 necrotic damage and gain a bonus equal to the damage you took, which is cool. Enchantment Breaker, when you're healed by a spell, you can take a reaction to repeat a saving throw against an enchantment effect, which is nifty. Essence of Rage is a potion which gives you the rage effect, which is also incredibly cool. Look at how many S items there are, man. Serpent Dart. You take a bonus action to magically coat this dart with thick emerald green poison, which lasts for a minute or until it hits something. Creature must succeed on a DC 13 con save or take an extra 2d8 poison damage and have the poison condition for a minute. This can only be done once per day. It's an uncommon item, so that's not bad. Let's look at these bad boys. Ironbreaker, the Tempest Reach. This is one that my player was asking me for. It's a big old magical bow. It gives a +3 to bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls. Whenever you roll initiative while the bow is on your person, you can roll a d10 to add the number to your initiative. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can make one attack with the bow as a bonus action. Immediately after you hit a creature with a ranged attack using this, the target and other creatures within 5 feet of it take 1d8 lightning damage. You can only do this... creatures can only take damage from this once per turn. When you hit a target with a ranged attack using the bow, that target becomes a conduit for electricity for 1 minute. You can, as a bonus action, cause all conduits within 60 feet of you to electrify, which cause 5-foot wide lines of electricity to arc between all electrified conduits within 30 feet of each other. Each conduit takes 2d8 damage, and all other creatures that are in at least one of the line must make a dex save or take 2d8 damage. Cool. Once per turn again. Once on each of your turns when you miss with a ranged attack, you can reroll the attack against a different target. Cool. While holding the bow, you get a fly speed, and while you're attuned to the bow, you're subjected to the chaotic matter of the Storm Heart. Whenever you take lightning damage, you roll a d8 to get different things. It also has different properties, and it's pretty hard to destroy. Yeah, it's cool stuff. I'm not going over all the items. I literally haven't read all the items yet. There are so many items in these books. They're really good. If you want more magic items in D&D, there's no reason not to get this. If you already have the first book, this one is $10, which is preposterous. There's no better value to be found on D&D Beyond. So yeah, if you've got the first one, probably get this. If you got book 2, probably get this one because it's just worth it. I really like subclasses. The species option's really cool. Honestly, I just wish that the Griffin Saddlebag had spells and stuff in, because I would love to see what spells come out of this person, or the team. But yeah, if you're wondering whether or not you should get this, the answer is yes, you should. It's amazing. But that is it. I've been talking and reading for a long time now. The video won't be as long as it has been for me, which is a blessing on all of you, I'm sure. But yes, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It helps. Join the Discord. Become a member if you want. I'll be figuring out other membership options as time goes on. I do want to make a tier at some point for playing D&D, because I want to run more D&D, because I'm obsessed, hence the YouTube channel. But I need to figure out the specifics of that. But that's it. Until next time, I hope that you take care and that you are doing well and continues to do well, and I will see you whenever it is that I next see you. I hope that it is soon. A wonderful weekend. Goodbye.